Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing the June mood board for the Happy Craft Challenge. So it's mostly a citrus colour, and so I am actually working with acrylics. So I've got again my Happy Craft Challenge altered journal, and I'm going to add some orange colours and some arrows and some circles, etc., to try to get a background that matches the actual challenge for this month. So with this layout I'll add some tapes as usual. I found this washi tape was actually ripping as I was pulling, so I just added the heat gun around a little bit and it allowed me to use it correctly. Great little trick to use, especially when your tapes have been sitting around for a while and or it's in a cold environment, which often my craft room is on majority of the time. So now I'm just going to glue stick some of these great background papers, and I'm actually using up some of my stash now, and I've actually found some cool little pages. These are I think they're a 9x9 or 8x8 I think they are. So they just will be torn up and added in the background, and we'll see what will develop from there. So I've also going to add some stamps. I've just ripped them in half and placed them down. They've just got the proper colour, and actually even the citrus is actually on these particular stamps, so I thought it quite a fun little add-on for that. So I'm also using, this is some of my gel plate printouts, and they are in the colour range that has been chosen for this month, which is mostly yellow through to orange, but as some of the pictures had a little bit of green, I thought I'd add that for balance, which it contrasts well with those other colours. I'm going to try to hide the black and white card a little bit, as it doesn't quite, it kind of stands out too much at the moment, so I'll actually dim them down a little bit and send it back further into the background, as this page was already gessoed, as you would have seen. So I'm mainly going to be using acrylics. Now this time I've actually chosen Atelier Interactive, and all the colour range will be included on my blog site as usual, so you have access to the information of what I actually used. So this is like a sample kit of the Atelier Interactive, so interactive being the fact that they will reactivate when you add water, just like watercolour does, but at the same time they are a thick acrylic, so they have a deeper pigmentation than watercolour. So first I'll add some gesso and blend all those bright colours further back, especially the black and white, as much as I can. So I've actually gone and got one of my smaller gel mats, and I decided I've seen it on other tutorials where the people have actually used them as their palettes, and I thought, well, that's a great idea, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm using a brayer to add some of the darker orange to the page, and a couple of the spots weren't gelled down, so I've actually added some gel and just brayered them through as well, so which was going to add some more texture to the page, which was a happy accident. So I'm just drying that to touch. It doesn't take as long with the gel or these types of acrylics, and they means you can actually add more colour without over interaction. So if you dry in between this type of interactive medium, for example the watercolours or Lindy's Gang, you won't get as much interaction if you don't use as much wet as you normally would. So I'm just now using some of the stencils I chose. These ones have got arrows, and I don't mind that it's actually having some blending issues. It just adds again to the texture of the background. So I'm using just a sponge, and I decided, as I wanted some of these to be permanent, I've changed to the Delusions white linen paint, as this is a permanent acrylic rather than the active ones, interactive ones below. So I'll dry this off again to a workable surface. So now I've decided to actually add some black in myself, having more control. You can see some of the black still in the background, but I thought I would bring some in. So I'm actually kind of lightening it up and adding some crosses in that particular different stencils that I've got there. So again, drying off and waiting for the next step. A lot of the artists I get inspiration from have shown that just adding different textures through strokes, crosses, circles adds to the final product. So I'm just adding some of the lighter yellow into little dabs on there, and now I'm going to bring in the green. Yes, it's a stencil that has gears on it, but I decided to use the full circles that are actually in there to bring in some green, which, as you see, makes the orange and the yellows pop. Adds another nice dimension to it. And now I'll bring in some black. I grabbed my black pen-like thing and I tried to blend it in to use it as a frame so I could see where I was at, and I just didn't like it, so I ended up taking that off and then try to cover it up a little bit with some more black acrylic. So here I've decided to add some random squares to see what would come. I sprayed the matte, and now I just thought I'd dab it and see what would come onto the background, and big mistake. I decided that was disgusting. Totally ruined the effect I was after. So I've trying to blend it backwards and kind of hopefully remove that layer. So yes, it was a boo-boo, but it still adds to texture, so I'll dry it off and I will work up from there. There's some good spots, but those really dark brownish colours I really didn't like, so I'm going to add some gel here just to hold some of the interactive back. It will stop it from, it'll seal it off and hopefully stop some of that interacting with the gesso that I'm applying now. So I'll randomly gesso the middle, but definitely get rid of the outline and those darker spots that I created. Mistakes happen, but sometimes they end up being a happy error, and it just led to the next stages of the page. So I'll just keep working and working. So now I've decided a different approach. I'm actually adding all the colours onto the gel plate and I'm finger painting. I was a little bit angry with myself for making the mistake, but I'm here to start again, and this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm playing it. I decided to blend in and try not to lose some of those depths that are there, like the circles and that, and see what comes up as I'm layering with finger. I love finger painting, it's very stress-free. As you also seen, I grabbed an old paint brush handle and scribbled on the page as well. This just adds another dimension to the page. Give it a little bit of spray of water just to loosen it up a little bit, and maybe make it a little bit more translucent to see the background that's behind it. As you can see, using the paper towel to dry it off, I've actually created another texture, so I'll dry that off and hopefully still keep that texture in the background, because it added a nice little dimension here and there where it actually brought up some of the colour. And now I'm just dabbing where it's damp with the paper towel, and it's actually pulling some of the sticky paint off and bringing back some of the background. You're going back a few layers with that. Didn't happen in all places, so it wasn't quite getting the effect I was after, but we can only but try with some of these things. So now I'm just going to thin out some of the white acrylic, and I'm just going to now add some more of those textures again through the stencils. And as you see, I changed what brand I was using. I'm even adding some of the lighter shades just to blend them in and make them not be so loud. So I do a lot of drying. I didn't cut this down a lot, I sped it up quite a bit, because I found that there wasn't a length of time of the drying. It was actually only short drying periods. So this whole page ended up taking me about 2.5 hours in total. There was no stopping in between, it was just straight away. So this is probably my longest drying time here. I probably could have cut that out, so I do apologise. So now I've actually got a black pastel. I'm actually rubbing it onto the edging and just dusting it through to frame the page so I can look at it and see if I think it's finished. So I decided that was finished from at that point, and so I'll brayer out on my gel mat and just use it on a scrap piece of paper that I can use as a background at some future point. So now I'm going to take some inspiration from Megan K. Shurex, I think it's pronounced, a YouTuber. This is taken from one of her tutorials or videos from 3 years ago. It was a facial image that I fell in love with, and I thought I would freehand and see how I go. So here it is that I've copied it freehand onto a piece of paper while I was watching it, and decided I'd give it a freehand go myself. So I'm going to show some of my drawing that I've picked up over the time with my inspirations from a couple of artists that are really great in doing this type of work. And it's some work that I've actually fallen in love with, and it may be where I go futuristically in my work, especially my journal work. As you've probably seen, I've done a few faces like this, so I'll just keep drawing and then you can see me paint, filling it in with paint. I'm also going to be using one of the inkjet ink tints from Derwent. It's actually an outliner, and that will darken it up, and you'll see a little bit more detail shortly. And my skin colour mix, I've actually brought back in the orange in this acrylic paint, and just to bring out the face. It will be shaded down and up depending on where on the face it falls, and I'll just keep adding and adding until I'm happy with the final result. Not sure why I picked blue for the hair, but once I started it, I was actually kind of committed to it. In hindsight, I probably should have left the hair the background, and I need some more practice, I can already see, for hair. But I'm happy with her, and I'm really hoping you enjoy my stages of learning and me sharing these stages through my process of learning new tools for my art journaling. And on goes the Liquid Pearls eyeshadow. Thought it worked well. So now I'm just going to pick a saying from another page that I found when I was looking for some backgrounds. And I cut one out too, which will hide some of the errors in the hair and draw the eye away from it a little bit. So I'm just going to dry the hair to find a spot, and dry the face and dry all the work that's here, as it is still wet, and I want to use the Posca pen etc. soon. So I'm just going to clean off again my gel plate and put that aside, and I'm just going to blend some white just to fix up the error at the bottom with the white that's there, and just blend back the hair a little bit more as it was very irregular. So now I've got the Posca pens out, and I'll draw the outline of the facial features and highlight a little bit extra and see what else that she needs. And there's a lot of turning when it comes to some of the line work, so you're not resting your hand on any wet surface and smudging it. So once I'm happy with some of the Posca work, I decided the page needed some stenciling, so I got out the archival ink and I sponged some of the stencils that was used previously back on the page using a light inking with the archival ink, and that really made me happy with what I had done. It brings the girl back a little bit and brings some of the information forward from the back. So I'm also going to try and use the Kaiser Craft. It's a orange colour, and it didn't quite work. It wasn't really it was putting orange on the stencil, but it wasn't coming out anywhere on the page, or only lightly. And then I remembered that you can actually use it like an embossing ink, so I decided to continue with that, place it in some spots and add some embossing powder in a light yellow, which brings back some of the colours that were required for or was part of the challenge. So I've just adding some more of that ink and some more powder, and then I'll heat gun those off. And I was actually quite happy I decided to do that, and I've used a really good quality brush to take off the excess, so there actually wasn't as much as could be on each of those areas. So I'll just heat them off. It was just light enough, it wasn't white, so it didn't make it stand up, but it did, I feel, bring some of the colour back. Right, that's all heated, so now back to the Posca pen and adding some eyelashes. So the young lady has a little bit more oomph in her eyes. I probably could have brought some of the lashes further forward, but I thought that was sufficient and enough for her face, the way she was. Just adding some highlighter colours in. Looking at the nose, while Megan done a similar thing, I'm not sure I like the effect it makes the end of the nose stand out, but it is what it is. So I'm just looking at the mood board and seeing if there's anything else I can do, and I don't think there is, so I'm just going to add some glossy gel to the inspirational wording and sign my name, outline the wording. I've actually now found a date stamp, and I'll just edit that. So just ink and press, easy. I don't have to worry about it being illegible with my handwriting. So I'm also decided to sponge on some of the archival ink to the edging to give it a bit more deeper framework around, and it really seemed to work well. I actually was quite happy with the page. A couple of scribbles around the wording, and look, and I think that's almost it. So thank you for watching my video, and all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. It's so true words. So be safe, be happy. If you like it, please subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye, take care.